it really centers around that conversation that you had earlier about affordability and insurability. One of the things that drives that is the non-weather water losses. It's about 40% of our ex-cat loss cost dollars. And what's staggering is that 17% of the homes in one of our recent surveys have water sensors, yet 80+% have other sensors like smoke alarms. That's why I say
Yeah.
water sensors are the new smoke alarms, right? Hi, I'm Tim Dillahunt, head of personal lines underwriting here at the Hanover Insurance Group, and this is the future of insurance.
Tim, I have been hoping to do this for a while now. I think since we ran into each other at InsurTech Hartford Symposium this year, 2024. This is
Yeah,
coming out in 2025, but
2024.
we're recording it in 2024. But it's great to finally sit down with you and to close out the season with what I think is actually an incredibly important message if people can't tell from your shirt. But we will get into all of that. So welcome to the show and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. As you know, Bryan, I'm very passionate about this topic, so happy to talk about it with you.
See, and people say insurance is boring. I disagree. I think it's full of passionate people, and you're a great example of that. For those who don't know you, haven't come across you yet, can you just give us a quick background on you and on your work at the Hanover?
Yeah, sure. I have been in the business for about 30 years now, both in sales, marketing, and now in underwriting. So I'm the underwriting leader at the Hanover. And as you know, Bryan, mitigation is a big part of what I think about. I think about how we can prevent losses versus just settling the claims, which is important, obviously, as an insurance company. But as an underwriting leader, I don't want to even have the claims. And I think about the customers more than just our bottom line. And that's
Right.
really what drives me.
And so that's across the personal lines space in the Hanover responsibility wise. Have you been exposed to commercial lines and some of the other stuff? I know you just kind of functionally you said you did different things where you have you worked across different lines as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I partner alongside our risk control leader, Christina, and her and I have really partnered a lot on what we're going to talk about, which is water sensors. So have a good idea of what she's been able to do in the commercial line side, and then what we've been able to do on the personal line side with regards to water mitigation. So
Well, so I have spent a lot of um you could say hot air or energy on in particular hail because that's been a like front page of the newspaper issue in a good chunk of the country. It's always been an issue, but it's kicked up a lot more the past couple of years, especially. But before there was hail, there's been water issues, non-catastrophe or non-weather water. I work for a British carrier that I think put it really well. They called it escape of water, which sounds very like British, right? It's like, oh, it's
yeah,
not where it's supposed to be,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
escape.
yeah.
But it's not in the pipe where you thought it would be. It's now elsewhere. And it has caused problems in homeowners, in commercial property for decades. It's not just become an issue of late. This has always been an issue. What's different of late is we have a way to start to fight that. And it's been a slow burn for a lot of the industry. And I do think we're we're good at coming in after something's gone wrong. We talk a lot about predict and prevent. This is an area where we can actually do it, and we're not necessarily making the progress we need to. So I was excited to get to sit down with you and have this conversation to bring some more light to this issue. Um, I've said as much as my knowledge will allow me to say on this.
Yeah.
You've got the depth on this. Can you talk to us a little bit about this issue and
Yeah.
kind of how widespread it is and what it means from a loss and an underwriting standpoint?
Yeah, I'm going to give you some statistics that might blow your mind a little bit. But it really centers around that conversation that you had earlier about affordability and insurability, and
Yeah.
really how we as carriers can make that, the policies more affordable and insurable, and and them more insurable. And one of the things that drives that is the non-weather water losses. It's about 40% of our ex-cat dollar loss cost dollars,
Wow.
40%. And what's staggering is that 17% of the homes in one of our recent surveys have water sensors, yet 80+% have other sensors like smoke alarms. That's why I say
Yeah.
water sensors are the new smoke alarms, right? 80% of them have smoke alarms, about 50% fire alarms and things like that, but yet it's more likely 6 to 7 more times likely to have a water loss, a non-weather water loss, than any of those other losses.
It's
And yet
crazy.
we have those prolific in homes. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm driving like, why not sensors, water
Yeah.
sensors?
Are I've heard this. I think it's true. Isn't the insurance industry sort of behind the existence of the smoke alarm in the first place?
Yeah,
Is that a myth or is that real?
no, I think that's real. I think it's again one of those things where something's got to change, right? And
Yeah.
so that's what drives it. Now, of course, it's standard in every home.
Yeah,
Um,
but if this, I mean, 40%, that's got to be the number one. I mean, it's not the majority, but it's the plurality. Like it's got to be the most common single cause of loss,
it is
ex cat.
xCat. Yeah.
Um, why aren't we doing anything about that? We solved something that is important and a big deal, but nowhere near as big a deal. Is it because lives don't tend to be lost that it wasn't as emergent?
So you hit it on the head, Brian. I think with the smoke alarms, it's really about saving lives.
Yeah.
And water sensors is not really, but it's still very destructive. You mind if I tell
Oh
my
yeah.
story about my dad?
Yeah, yeah,
That's what
please.
drives me because it's so destructive. I tell the story a lot of times about my dad, who was 78 years old, and he had a non-weather water loss. Washing machine hoses broke overnight, and it just flooded his home. And here's this guy, 78 years old, now having to be out of his house for 2 months. Now the
Yeah.
companies paid for his losses and they took care of it, but he was out of his home for 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's what drives me. I think people don't really want to be out of their homes for 2 months.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't. And so everybody wins if he had just had a water sensor, would have woke him up, shut the valves off, done, mopped
Yeah.
up the water. So
And that's if you mitigate quickly. If not, now you've got mold issues. And so you might be back in your house in 2 months, but now you've got illness and, if you could have gotten in 2 months, like
right,
it's not as simple as just 2 months is bad enough, but that may not be the end of the story.
right.
Um,
Well, especially
so,
with supply issues during COVID and all that, it
oh
was
yeah.
it was taking things a lot longer, right? So
So you talked about the alarm going off. The sensors have evolved as well. We've got the ones that can sort of tell you, yeah, there's water, in a pan under. I've got one under my water heater after the last one blew, which I told you that story. I happened to be sleeping in the basement that night
yeah,
and heard it. So I was the alarm, but it's going to hear it going off and tell me, but it's not going to do anything about it.
right.
Um, Actually, that's not true. Ours does shut off, but just for the water heater, not for the house. There's ones that
Mhm.
can actually stop the water to the whole house as well. Talk a little bit about kind of the spectrum of solutions that are available in the water space, and from the really simple to install to, yeah, you need a professional to come out.
Yeah, that's really a great point because I like the whole solution, and that's what I try to educate people on.
Yeah,
So back to your point, the simplest one is a device that just clips onto the pipe and it senses the water pressure and water temperature. And what that does is and it gives you an alert on your phone, like
yeah,
many of them do, and it tells you that you have a slow leak. So that's potentially something that's behind drywall or something like that, which
yeah,
could cause all the damage. And we found from claims that there's lots of water damage that way. And so that alerts the customer, hey, you got a problem behind your sink or behind your wall there. You might want to take care of it.
that's where mold's going to set in because
That's
you
where
didn't.
yeah,
I mean, my water heater was terrible and it did burst, but I was there to mop it up. You could see
right,
everything. It's a
right.
different story if it's just drip, drip for months and months and months, wetting things. You get a
Yeah.
real problem then.
It also can alert you if your water is overused as well. So that's a simple one. The other one is the next one is the water sensors, which is what you talked about. I have 10 of them. I'm a little crazy
You're
about
the
them.
lab. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's it. So and mine have gone off. It's under the sink, and you've got to place them in the right places. But they just simply alert you right away. You'll hear a noise in the
Yeah,
house, and you'll hit something on your phone and so you'll be able to say, okay. So even if you're not home, I think people kind of get this idea, well, you got to be home. Well, yeah, but if you're not home, you can send a neighbor over. Most of
yeah,
us have neighbors that we trust, and hey, let's turn, especially if we're on vacation, right?
yeah,
And so the water sensor, but the best solution is a water sensor that then triggers the water shutoff.
yeah,
So the water shutoff valves, and frankly speaking, a lot of people don't even know what the shutoff valves are, Brian.
yeah.
So that's like let's find that out first, right?
Right.
Right. But then that automatic shutoff is really the best solution. It
Yeah.
senses that there's water leakage and it just automatically shuts it off. Now, some of them are simpler to put in, and then others are you require a plumber. So
Yeah.
that can get a little costly, but
And
hey,
even the ones that require professional installer, those have evolved. I mean, I remember early days it was you need a plumber and an electrician,
right.
and now it's down to just a plumber can do at least the ones that I've seen.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
and the demos I've seen, they go off pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
They're
Yep.
stopping the water. People are like, "Oh, it could take hours." That's not. No, I saw a slow
No.
leak that it turned it off within seconds of realizing there was a slow leak.
Oh yeah, these devices now have come a long way, Brian, and they absolutely work very, very well. Mine have worked very well in my house. I
Yeah,
just have the water sensors. I did try an automatic shut off. So you've got to really try different things that'll work for your house.
yeah.
But I think it's important. So
Now you've actually seen through your experimentation, through some of the work that the Hanover's done, so not just you in your home, but across your book, you've seen the impact of this. And that's I was pretty amazed at the ROI. Again, kind of back to the point of why aren't we doing more of this? Because the dollars are pretty self-evident here.
yeah, the saves are amazing on the personal line side, where people have, myself included, have saved personal items. We have something on our website I'd love for people to see. It's a lady who talks about the personal items that she's been able to save
Yeah,
because of the water sensors. She's like, what are we protect? What are you protecting? Because
yeah,
that's stuff that you can't get back.
yeah.
If water hits pictures or paintings, or the lady talks about handprints, baby handprints that she put in
Hmm.
that were in the basement, right? So
Yeah,
if you can't replace that, right? So
yeah,
one of the saves, though, on the commercial line side, my commercial lines partners talked about was a huge savings at a commercial building that really could have cost them. It was a museum that could have cost them millions of dollars,
yeah,
and it was just a sensor that went off, and of course the maintenance person went in and found out what the issue was, fixed it, and took care of it, mopped up the problem. But had they not, it could have caused huge problems. So
yeah. And the difference is their pictures are all valued, so you can put a monetary dollar on the
right,
total thing, but at the same time, it's sort of invaluable. I mean, it depends what's in the museum, I guess, and if you like this stuff or not. But you're talking
right,
about, historical artifacts,
right,
things that
right,
human beings can't touch with our fingers, and then it's
right,
got, dirty water coming down on it, destroyed
right.
permanently.
Yeah. So, yeah, the saves have been tremendous. And again, it benefits everybody,
Yeah,
the insurance company benefits, the customers benefit because the insurers, whether they're commercial lines or personal lines, they don't have disruption
yeah,
either way, and then they're not paying the higher claims. And then back to this point of these are the things that make the insurance policies more affordable,
yeah,
right? Because now we can offer discounts. Now there's less frequency of these claims, and frankly, less severity of these claims because
yes.
even if they do happen, we can get at it
Getting
quickly.
getting faster. Yeah,
So we're minimizing the severity as well.
yeah. Which fire alarms can't. I mean, I see that is more about loss of life, which is important, and there's a value to that. But you're probably not going to stop the house from burning down or
No,
taking significant fire damage. You can put in fire suppression. That's going to cause a lot of damage as well. So it's
right,
the damage is going to happen, but people aren't going to die. This is a different story.
right, very much so. This is about your standard of living and just having a good life, and then the memories, like I
Yeah.
said, that's a big thing that I don't think people think enough about. Because we talk about insurance as indemnifying people, getting people back to where they started, but you can't if you've lost pictures or
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
There's no doing that. So why not prevent it? Why not stop it from happening? That's so much better.
Yeah. I mean, any parent listening, thinking about the baby footprint thing
Yeah.
that, yeah, ruined.
And it's the numbers that get me. Like you said, I'm not sure why we don't drive more towards this, but
Yeah.
40%, 6 to 7 more times likely to have a water loss than a fire loss.
Yeah.
Those are the numbers that just keep resonating in my head that
Yeah.
this is important.
And there's a lot of things we can't do anything about, or to do something about is significantly harder. So, like you and I have talked about the cost of replacing roofs and putting in more resilient roof for the hail. That's
Mhm.
great. And you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands, depending on the size of the home and the supply chain costs and labor costs and
Right,
all
right,
that.
right. Yeah, yep.
And probably not going to get a payback for an extremely long time, if not ever. The homeowner's probably not going to pay back putting in that new roof, their premium will come down. It's a good idea, but this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
You have some experience on the number side of it, the cost of the sensors versus the savings to the carrier. It feels like the economics tell a very different picture, and it's something we can control. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you do have a sense of kind of what the economics are of putting
Oh
in some
yeah.
sensors, the discounts, et cetera, what does that look like?
Well, they vary from company to company, as you might imagine, but there
Yeah.
are discounts and the sensors, as you know, you can get them off of, and I don't mind as an underwriting leader, get them off of Amazon. I don't care, or one of the,
Yeah.
you know, it's about $20 per sensor, and if it saves you, and you're right, it's about tens. It's on average, depending on what it is. We have numbers on our website that show that like a pipe leak is on average $7,000 in damage, and washing machine hoses bursting is on average $10,000 in damage. So you
Yeah.
can imagine the ROI on that, right?
Yeah.
Like you're spending maybe $100 for water sensors and maybe $100 a year for monitoring. That's going to take a long time to soak up that $10,000
Yeah.
of savings that you would have had. So
Yeah. You can protect a lot of homes for the value of one claim.
you bet, you bet.
When you said about your father's experience, you just said it again with the washer cables, the washer hoses. When I was in personal lines, we put out these articles in our insured's newsletter all about steel braided water hoses, and you got to put them in for your washer, and you're going to be protected then. And you guys have this video on Facebook, I guess. That I didn't even realize they wear out, they age,
Yeah.
they crack, they corrode.
Yeah.
So the one that's in your video, we just got a new washer and put in new hoses, and I was like, I need to actually put in my calendar, fast forward 7-8 years. I mean, I'm gonna check them every year now.
Yeah.
But to know, like, even if they look okay, I'm gonna replace them anyway, because they're not expensive, but having that loss would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're thrilled that we've got that leader from the video. His name is Pete. He's done a great job at educating all of us, because I didn't know that either. I didn't know these hoses wear out. So he's like, check under your sinks, check under your washing machine hoses. Just kind of update them on a regular basis, just almost like you would the batteries on your smoke alarms.
Right.
Back to being the smoke alarm thing. I tie everything back, Bryan.
Yeah. He did have one good tip, because I know a lot of people maybe can't get back behind the washer, or there's too much clutter around it or whatever. Just hold your phone back there and snap a picture, and you're gonna see some things you don't want to see. You're gonna see some things that fell back there that when we pulled our old one out, I was like, oh, that's where that was. But it's not that hard, and it's actually a lot easier even than changing the batteries in the smoke detector, which I just went through and changed all of ours. See, the problem with talking to you, Tim, is that I'm like, hey, I got to do that too.
Yeah.
But
no,
what we got to do
funny.
as homeowners.
Yeah, I've been able to travel with some of these folks and do some inspections of homes, and second floor laundry rooms are a big deal too. So those are some of the things we talk to our customers about. If you've got a second floor laundry room, you absolutely need to have a water sensor. And so what you'll see, Bryan, is some companies are starting to make some requirements with water sensors, because it makes that big a difference. So in our company included, on our larger homes, we're letting people know, like, look, you need to have a water shutoff valve, particularly if you've already had a non-weather water loss. That's an underwriting requirement at that point, because we just know that's more likely to happen again, and let's prevent it. And so we require water sensors and or water shutoffs, and you'll see more and more companies are starting to go that route.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we can impact, and that we can't change the weather, can't change hot and cold and whatever else is going on in the climate. But if it's freezing cold where you and I are right now, it's worse yesterday, but it's cold enough today. That's when pipes burst, and people go away for, recording this around Christmas time. People go away for the holidays. Your pipes burst. Well, here's a case of something we actually could control the outcomes from. I think is a nice call for all of us in the industry to step up and try to control this stuff more. So, I appreciate you, kind of the war cry, the shirt, and getting around and talking about it, because it's important, and I don't think people are paying enough attention. Maybe it's not as sexy as hail, because that's such a massive front page problem, or wildfire. but 40% of non-cat losses, this is actually a major issue for us, whether we're talking about it or not.
Yeah. And to your point, it's preventable. It can
Yeah.
be preventable. It's something we can do about this. So I really appreciate you having me on here and talking about this. As I saw your other podcast, I thought this would be a great topic. So I kind of baited you into this a little bit, but hey, thank you for letting me talk about it. Because
Yeah, well, it was a Curtis Goldsboro post. He was not wrapping in, but he and I did a discussion. We were getting into hail and affordability, and yeah, you chimed in, and I was like, I've been trying to get you on the show. I'm going to put you on blast publicly about it.
Yeah.
But I knew you were fishing for it too, so it worked out perfectly. But
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
great to have you. Great to have you in, and please do keep fighting for this, because what Curtis is doing, all of it is we need to educate the industry more. We need to get people taking action more. And this one is like, it's really basic. It's really obvious. It's not complicated. We could put it in, and few houses could make a massive difference in the outcome of anyone's book of business. And I know there are no carriers who are like, we're making too much money on homeowners and we're charging
Exactly.
too much. Like those
Yeah,
are
yeah,
not
yeah.
things that you
Those are
hear.
not, no,
Yeah. So
exactly.
how do we've got to get this to be more affordable for insureds to buy, but also for us to sell. And you don't do that by just continuing on the path of same old, same old.
Yeah, and that's really what drives me as well. It's this affordability. We can't keep just plugging rates in, people
Yeah.
can't do that. So we've got to think of ways. This is just one, but we're working on some other things that we can try to help the industry, and everybody wins, like I said.
Yeah.
So that's the good part.
Well, that just means I get to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I'd love to do it.
When you have your next shirt printed, then
Yeah, I've got to come up with a song. I told you I'm working on a song because Curtis is blowing me away with all his raps. So I'll get something going. And
well, I'm here for it. Thank you for taking some time and talking about this, and not just today, but in general. You're pushing us all in the industry to talk about this stuff and to pay attention to it, and you have a passion about you. I know you're passionate about what you're talking about, but your passion, I think it infects other people. So please keep doing it. And thanks for sitting down with me.
yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.